Good afternoon. Welcome back to Cozy Up and Pay Attention, the Parent Edition, Season 2. And if you're looking at my face, that means it's Tuesday, 2:02 Pacific Standard Time. I have another parent today for your listening pleasure. It's going to talk about the love and sacrifice that she gave to her children. If you would please kindly take a deep breath and let it out. We'll be right back.
Cozy Stone is a multi-talented comedian extraordinaire who has a real lust for life. She also combines humor and motivation, where she is known as a humorvational speaker. Her youthful ways and positive light make her a beacon for those of all ages. Cozy has lived a remarkable life that has paved the way for so many. She had the longest-running open mic venue of 11 years at Tommy Rockers in Vegas, called Cozy's Comedy Corner, through which she introduced many up-and-coming comedians. Before going into comedy, she was one of the first female personal trainers and one of the top fitness trainers in the world. She has trained many greats such as Billie Jean King, Roberta Flack, Andrew Young, Ed Bradley, CCH Pounder, Al Pacino, and Earl Monroe. As a former competitive bodybuilder, she also owned a bodybuilding gym for women over 40 in Los Angeles for several years. She has worked in top positions for HBO, Playboy, and Tony Robbins. She also enjoys volunteer work, dedicating time to the New York Foundling Hospital and babies with AIDS. Cozy Stone has a message that shouldn't be missed.
Bring me my lovely guest, please. Good afternoon, Senora Colvin. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I am doing very well. And before we get started, I'd like to remind the audience every week that we know that there are not manuals or books on best practices on how to raise your child or what you should teach them. We also know there is no such thing as a perfect parent. And most important for me is to say this show has nothing to do with parent shaming. We just want to offer the audience situations of parents who, again, the word is sacrificed, loved, compromised, and gave of themselves for the benefit of society, but more importantly, for their child. So I want to get right to it and ask you, where were your parents born and raised, Sonora?
Northport, Alabama.
Northport, Alabama. What is that near?
That's right next to Tuscaloosa.
Oh, okay. And how old were they when they met?
They've known each other really all their lives. My grandparent, I think the story goes, my grandfather, my father's father, helped my mom's father build their house. But they didn't get together until they were in their 20s.
Okay. All right. And that were you also born in this big town?
I was born in Tuscaloosa, Druid City Hospital.
Druid City Hospital.
Yeah,
All right.
Druid City or Druid County, but it's Druid something.
All right. I'm a New York City woman. I would lie if I told you I know anything about the South.
Right.
We Black people, I'm sorry. My roots in New York City, and I didn't go south because my relatives were in New York City. But
Right.
moving forward, so I want to give the audience a background. Do you know, or you just said your parents, do you know how old they were when they first had, are you their firstborn?
They're together, yes. Together,
Okay.
yes. Mm-hmm.
And they were how old, if you know?
Well, I know my mother was 21. No, was she? I think she was 21 when I was born. My dad was like 26 or something like that.
All right.
He was military.
The reason I ask that question is oftentimes we find out how history repeats itself. So with you, we got a special case here, but let's get into it. Tell us how old you were when you had your first child.
I was 13. I was 13, and I have an older sister, but I just want to say that. But yes, I was 13 when I had my son.
Okay, so needless to say, that was not a planned. That was not a planned pregnancy.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah.
Also, see, there's some questions that I'm going to skip around. You obviously, not obviously, you did have the village to help you in this situation. Is that
Yes.
correct? Who
Yes.
who is helping you as a child raising a child?
Oh my gosh. But my mother, all of my siblings, my mother and father divorced and remarried both of their spouses, friends, my stepbrother's mom. Like we had a serious village, our church family.
Wow.
Um, they they all came together and did everything they needed to do to help us. I had an amazing family support, aunts and uncles.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me, since this is a little different dynamic, so let me ask this question as well, because I know it happens. It will continue to happen. So as a 13-year-old, Sonora, did you understand the consequences of the action?
No. Okay. So how can I say? You know, I think we were talking before that I had situations in my life that caused me to make the wrong decisions, right? Because when you're 13, when you're a child and you're trying to cope, you don't think through things. And I was pregnant. I didn't tell you this part, but I was pregnant, did not know I was pregnant. No
Right.
one knew I was pregnant. And I had until I went into labor and had him.
Right. Oh, I've known situations. I know three situations just like yours with young girls, and they never showed. Did you show?
I didn't show. I was always kind of, even though I did ballet and jazz and
Mhm.
I was very athletic. I loved sports. I was built like a box, sort of,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
and I always wore sweatshirts and things. And I lived in Tacoma, Washington, where it was always cold.
Okay.
you know, you
So
wore
we have a
sweaters and things. But yeah, but hindsight, I think, oh, I should have known. But yeah.
no. So you got a cramp, you probably got a pain in your stomach, and they took you to the hospital,
Yep.
and you found out. So you did not have chance to. One of my questions is usually, was it fear or fantasy? You didn't have an opportunity for any of that. So
None of
you're
it.
13. Can you try to remember at 13, the best you can, what you felt like when they handed you this, as you said, a preemie, this baby, because you knew about babies. I mean, we all know about babies at
Right.
13. You just don't know actually how they come about, right? Where
Right.
they don't know about the action and the consequences from it. Can you remember it all, how you felt?
It's so funny. Again, when you're young and your brain plays tricks on you,
Mhm.
um, I I can't really, the day he was born, everything happened so quickly, right? And then the doctor, he was born at a hospital called St. Joseph. So it was a Catholic hospital. They had nuns and what have you. And the doctor was like, well, of course you're going to give him up for adoption. I know that, right? And so I was like, okay. Right? I was like, okay, whatever. And then so a nurse, I always say this was God. The nurse came in, I mean the nun came in and had me fill out some papers. And she says, I forgot a piece of paper. I'll bring it. I forgot a form. I'll bring it tomorrow. I said, great. My Aunt Bobby came to visit me that night and said, Sonora, are you sure you want to give the baby up for adoption? I go, I just, I don't know. I thought that's what I'm supposed to do. Right. And she said, we all had a meeting. By what I mean by all my aunts, all four of my parents, they all had a meeting and they were like, we don't give away our children. And whatever we have to do, we will be here to help her raise that child.
Wow.
And so when the nurse came in the next day, I was like, yeah, I'm changing my mind. The doctor comes in and he's yelling at me. He was mad. That child's not going to be raised right. It's the worst thing that you could ever do. You're going to ruin his life and your life. I was like, well, dude, my family said no. So you know. So and then we just went on from there. But thank God we did that, because Sombe ended up with a lot of different medical problems that if he would not have had the love and care from us, I don't believe he would have survived.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, okay. So as I said, most of the questions that I asked, was there a partner? The answer is no. Support system, yes. There was no time to consider anything before birth because you didn't know you were birth. So we're going to get into your selected questions, and you please put in your daughter, and we know you have a daughter as well, and your son, and how they pertain to the questions because you chose these questions. So
Okay.
were you prepared mentally, emotionally, and or financially? You pick a kid. You pick the answer.
Okay. Well, I'll do both. First one, no, of course not. Second one, yes. And I read everything I could to make sure that I did not repeat mistakes
And
that I made.
tell us how old you were when you had your second planned child.
23. So 10 years later.
And you were married, and this was a planned pregnancy.
Right.
Life goes on. Fabulous.
Right.
Okay. All right. So second one, yes. So let's go back even to the second one. So now life is, you're grown, you're mature, you've got a husband, you've got a plan, you've got a future. And I just like to ask women, Senora, when they hear that they're pregnant, because these are two different situations here, right? Was it fear or fantasy, especially when you've now had a kid that had medical concerns? What went through your mind the second time when you were pregnant, when you found out you were pregnant?
I was fearful, but I said I was going to do everything I could to prevent it. You know, I know, you know, things happen, but I knew that I wanted this time to make sure that I did everything I could, read what I needed to read, eat what I needed to eat, have the mental, you know, wherewithal to do whatever I need. You know, I just wanted to make sure that I gave her a good start. Yeah.
Now I can go back and ask some of the questions above. Um, can you think of three things? Again, you've got the support system, you've got the husband, you've planned it, you're a mature lady. Three things that went through your head of being a parent without a sick child.
I don't understand. What do you mean? Three things?
A healthy child, a healthy child. So you were hoping this next one's going to be healthy. So when I find, I asked this question for this 25th show, what were three things that made you into your mind? Some of them say education, some say where you live, some say, can you think of, because now you've got what were things you wanted for your child before it was born?
Before it was born. So you're saying what I wanted her life to kind of be like.
You wanted to have in place even?
So in place, I wanted to make sure that, you know, we had a nice home. I wanted to make sure that we had the money to feed and clothe her as well as her brother, right? I wanted to make sure that I knew daily what to say to her, how to hold her, how to look at her, how from the beginning instill a sense of self-worth in her that I had to backtrack and do with my son. Right? I wanted to make sure, because when I started reading those books, I would go to him and go, "I'm so sorry, I didn't know." you know. So I hope that answers your question, but
yeah, it does. All right, so let's go to your daughter. As we were being raised, Senora, each and every one of us had our parents. I call it the yak yak in our ear. And we now know that those were words of prevention and precaution. Can you think of, and you may have said it to your son again, so use them both, but use your daughter mainly, that you heard from your parents that you ended up using and saying to your daughter as you were raising her?
Oh, wow. There's a lot.
Me too.
I'm the sick
Let
one.
me help you. Let me help you with this. Chances are she is going to repeat these things
Those same things,
to her
right?
child. That's so
Right.
take it from there.
Um, and I'm gonna say I did it to both of them. Like, when kids start acting crazy in the store, like pitch a fit, have a tantrum. I
Mhm.
looked at both of them and said, "Look, because I got this from my mother." She would look at us and go, "Oh, you're pitching a fit? I can pitch a bigger fit. Watch." And then we knew what that meant, you know, or things like there were times, and I changed it though in the midst of raising her. Um, why can't why can't I do such and such, or why can't I have such and such? And I say, because I said so.
Yeah.
But in the midst of them growing, I grew as well and learned that that wasn't necessarily always the right answer.
I have parents who've been on here and they still use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we heard it. We heard it so much. Again, it sticks in your head.
Yeah.
Let's go back. Let's go back one moment to your daughter, your husband, your life as a wedded woman. What were some of the sameness or differences that your husband had that you had to mend together, pull together to raise your child, or you argued over? Disagreed, not argued, disagreed over.
I think, let me think. Okay, so I'm divorced. So I don't want him thinking I'm talking bad about him. But but I think the difference was not discipline, because we really believed in discipline. But I think the biggest thing was the drive and teaching, not allowing them to. I believed in not allowing you uh, to just give a little bit. If you're doing a task, do that task to the best of your ability, right? And have a good work ethic. I think that was the difference. Not that he didn't have a good work ethic, but I think that sometimes he felt that I expected too much from
And
them.
that's what happens when we come from two different homes. That's all.
Exactly.
That's the reason I asked that question.
Right.
Sometimes it mends together, sometimes it doesn't. But again, every question that I ask you, those who are listening, and hopefully our audience, as it grows, they'll relate to that. God, I didn't want him to make them do homework every day, and I didn't want to make him go to bed, and I did. It happens.
Yeah.
We grew up in different homes. We had different rearings. How do you put the differences together?
Yeah.
Your next question is, comes back to where we were already. How much of your parents' disciplines did you use?
Oh, okay. Well, I was not. I know somebody out there is going to go, "Oh my God, she spanked her children." Yes, I did. If they,
Yours. They were
I,
yours, darling.
yeah, exactly. But as I got older, not that I never did, but I didn't do as often,
Mhm.
right? Because I learned the communication skills, right? Um, my son is, but kids are different. Kids
Mhm.
are different. Like, my
Mhm.
son was the kind where he's so sweet and kind, and not that my daughter's not, but somebody was like, "I will do anything you ask me to do. Just, I just want peace," right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Tavia, we always joke and go, "This is the edge, and this is Tavia." Like, she was gonna go to that edge, right?
Okay. Okay.
So, and then I disciplined them when it came to school. If it came to schoolwork and things like that, if they didn't do well in school, or or misbehaved in school, when they got home, they didn't watch television. They didn't get the latest clothes. They didn't get, those kind of things. That's the way I would discipline them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. And again, that was things that your parents did
Hmm.
that you repeated.
That
See,
I did.
one of the quiet secrets is when we grow up to be, I always use the terminology, the phrase responsible adults. It's hard for us not to look back and not realize how we got there.
Yeah.
We we didn't get here because we knew it all and we came out the womb
Right.
and we had all the answers and we knew to be courteous and polite and wash your dishes. And we didn't know any of that.
Right.
So at the end of the day, when we're not in a system and we are standing on our own and taking care of ourselves and making a difference in the world, we need to give praise and gratitude to the people who took the time. And that's how you and everyone on this show is. You are paying it forward.
I have to say, I was glad my parents were like that. They would always say, "We're preparing you to be an adult." So they inspected what they expected, and that's what I learned from my parents as well. That I did with my kids. If I gave you a chore, I was going to go back and check it out, and I didn't give you the chore just because I was too lazy to mop the floor. I was teaching you that when you have a responsibility, you need to take care of that responsibility and do it to the best of your ability, because you're going to be an adult and work for someone someday.
Mm-hmm.
And you want that just to be ingrained in you.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Your next question you chose was explain an unexpected challenge.
Well, one with Sombe, the unexpected challenge was all of his medical situations, right? He had a lot. But I want to say this about him, in that I have to praise him, because there's so many things he overcame when he was younger. He played ball, he did all kind of things. But when he got 20, his medical situation kind of started wearing on his body. So that was an unexpected situation. We thought, okay, I've got this baby, 13 years old. I have this baby. It's going to be rough, but we can do this, right? The family. And then we find out he has spinal meningitis and several other things.
Okay.
And so that was very unexpected. With my daughter, this wasn't a challenge, but it was a unexpected gift that when she was 10, she was discovered and went to New York and got an agent. So
that's not a challenge, by the way. That's a gift.
That was just a gift, but it was different from what you would expect.
But that's why I said at the beginning of the show, we're going to take each child differently. The challenge, yes, it came with him. Your next question is, did you know your child's or children's friends?
Yes.
And why?
Because I was not that parent that believed that I wanted my children to be all around the neighborhood. I needed to know where they were, right? And I felt if I'm asking them to be home, then I wanted to have the house where everybody could come and feel comfortable, right? So when they came, then their parents would get to know me, because the parents were like, is so-and-so home? I mean, so-and-so there. We get on the phone, we get to know each other. And then I could feel free about allowing them to go over to their house.
That's right.
So yes, my house was the house. Like when they were kids and when they were teenagers, my house was the house. I wanted the kids to feel comfortable.
And again, as you just said, it's not just their friends feeling comfortable. It's their parents knowing, and more importantly, you knowing their parents and thereby knowing their kid.
Exactly.
Right? So when you got that rare one, there's always one or two that you can see is getting ready to fall off the deep end. You have to then make that decision and sit down and say to your kid, I don't want you around them.
Right. But sometimes we were so close to them that my ex and I would really try to talk to them.
Good.
And, get them involved in certain things. Now, if they were going to go that way anyway, you are right. They were not allowed at the home.
But you tried to give them an opportunity. Because again, let's go back to the village. If I know your kid and you know my kid, I feel like I'm as much I don't have any kids and I'm responsible for everybody's kid.
Right.
It's just the way we're supposed to help one another.
Right.
And if you see a kid, you can keep them from walking out in the middle of the street or doing something that's going to be detrimental. I think I go into the middle schools and do what I call humorizational speaking. And what I say to children, I feel like I'm a bridge between what the teacher doesn't have time to give them because she's not there to teach them life lessons. And sometimes, in some instances, the parents either aren't equipped or they're not taking the time. And it's not a knock on parents at all. It's just life. It's their busy schedule. It's not knowing better. So
Mhm.
I go in and I talk about being an adult, getting good grades, um, doing the best, putting 150% into whatever it is, being kind, being polite, open the door, being respectful.
Right.
Um, yeah, me and my passion for children is is unfounding, as everyone says, for a person that doesn't have kids. Doesn't mean I don't love them. Let's
That doesn't mean you don't know the things to do to tell them
I
to
know, I
guide
know
them.
the things to do.
Right.
I had a great role model, and as you said, and I've heard other parents get on here, I may not have liked it, but I recognized it as a little girl, as a teenager.
Yep.
Everything she was telling me was for my benefit.
Right.
I just saw that. And then I also had an opportunity to see the kids in the neighborhood who didn't have the discipline she was giving me.
Right.
I'm not going to pretend I liked it. I'd lie, but I understood the end game. Your next
Right.
question is, what did you do to encourage success? And in that, I put chores, social skills, educational development, develop good relationships. Pick one or two of those.
You know what? Chores. I chores, but
Good.
with the chores,
Good.
it was yeah. With the chores, it was like I said, inspecting and praising them for doing it well. And it wasn't again, it wasn't about the fact I was too lazy to do it. I
They
just felt
live
I needed
there.
to learn that discipline. Right.
They live there.
Right.
Right?
Yes, that's right.
They create dirt. Those are your dirty clothes.
Right. Yeah, my father used to always say, if you have kids, there's no reason to have a nasty house because everybody should have a chore.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and then I read to them, and I would always try to take them places and learn things. You know, with my daughter, when we were in New York, we went to the museums, and you know, I made sure that she knew people of different cultures. You
Mhm.
know, that kind of thing really builds success because you're gonna deal with people of all nationalities in life. And if you don't learn about these cultures or learn or, you know, get to know them, you're not a well-rounded individual, I feel. My
Yeah,
opinion.
you're coming out. No, no, you're coming out of the neighborhood, right?
Yeah,
Life exists outside of this particular neighborhood, and you're
right.
exposing them to the world and what it has to offer.
And I am so proud of both of my kids in that way that both of them are very open-minded.
Mhm.
And I'm just proud of them for that.
Okay. All right. Your last question. Oh, you. What are you most proud of your children? And I think you just said it. I think
You
you just
did.
answered that
They
question.
are. They're very open-minded. They're kind. They're loving. They both have a really good work ethic. You
Mhm.
know, honest. Most proud of Sombe for overcoming the things he's overcoming and having the ability. He has the best ability to love and forgive. You
Wow.
know, he really does. He forgives people that I'll be like, ooh, well, you know, but I'm so proud of him. I go, I'm so proud of you. I couldn't do it, but I am so
Good.
proud of you. You know,
See, so there's
and
something that you can learn from him.
right. And then my daughter, I'm proud of her. She's, you know, her acting and everything she does and directing. She's fierce like that, you know, not afraid of going out and stretching herself. And she's developed, I think I told you about her, you know, her cultural coordinating. I love the fact that she is socially conscious and wants to change things. So
Mhm.
very proud of both of them.
Well, good.
Yes.
We have gotten to your fun question. Your fun question is what personal trait has gotten you in the most trouble?
My mouth. When I read all of those, I was like, that's the one. Yes, I believe I'm a kind, loving individual. I am. I have a girlfriend that says I'm nice until I'm not.
Mhm.
And I am. I'm a kind, loving individual, but my pet peeve is mean, when people are mean and disrespectful to people. And I'm not one to jump in someone's argument, but if it comes to me, you're gonna get all the smoke. And so sometimes it gets me in trouble. I'm very open when it comes to, certain things that go on in society. And sometimes that gets me in trouble because I speak up about it. Um, but I have learned that everybody does not have to know everything that you're feeling.
Oh, I haven't
That's,
learned that yet. Okay.
yeah, I was gonna say at
Yeah.
61 years old, I'm like, I'm getting better.
Yeah.
But I would say my mouth has gotten me in trouble a few times.
Okay. All right. I can resemble that remark. And yes, I too have learned how to temper it a good deal, and I'm glad I am. I'm just simply trying to stay out of prison. that's that's my number one goal. Well, please don't make me hurt you.
He's so
All
funny.
right, let's do a recap. Child of 13, child of 23, village behind you, had your own parents and family that gave to you. You were able to give back. You raised a child with no concerns. You raised a daughter who has probably superseded anything you could have ever imagined, which is what parents want to see at the end of the day. Um, and I haven't met her, but when I see her and you post stuff, I see you in her. I feel your spirit in your daughter because I've been around you. And I just can't imagine your daughter and your son not having what you had to give. And down the road, you probably have a good deal of your parents in you because, right? Yes. I see you online with your dad, with your brothers. You can feel it. Yeah. You can feel it. So see, you didn't need a tissue.
I didn't need a tissue. I do want to give props to my mom. My mom, both my parents, but my mom is still alive, and it is a blessing to have her here with me and to, I know she never asked me to do this, but to really repay her, here I go, to repay her for all that she has done for us.
Good.
Yeah.
Years ago, Senora, I don't remember how old I was. I heard a line that said, being a parent is a thankless job. And I remember how I hated hearing that line because you don't know it, but I've been in love with my mother since I came out of her womb. I just fell in love with her at first sight. And I just thought, wow, how ungrateful can you be? So to hear a for a parent to hear a child say, thank you, I love you, I couldn't be who I am without you. It's not a thankless job.
Right.
If you do it right, and I've had the 24 parents that's been on here, almost each and every one of them have said the same thing. I had one parent, and she said, what more than anything, she is her children's best friend.
Oh, wow.
When it's time to go somewhere, they come get her. They don't go to their friends first. This show, I don't know until I hang up, by the way, get off phone. But it strums my heart to applaud, to celebrate, showcase, to put all of you on the pedestal where you belong. And I thank you. We all, you can't hear us all, but we all thank you. Society thanks you for adding and not deleting and detracting from the world at large. One day we will see each other, but you still live up there in no man's land, don't you?
I'm not that far.
No. Are you still in Centennial?
Yes.
You're in no man's land.
I'm on that side.
I visited you once and swore I should have bought lunch. I said, I'm not going to get So we have to find somewhere that's in the middle.
In the middle. I know people do that to me all the time. They're like, "Can we meet at Red Rock?"
See, so it's not just me. You are still a sweetheart that I met in 2007 or 8, however long ago I met you.
Thank you.
Please continue to keep up the good job. Continue to be the warm, loving, kind mom, sister, friend, wife that you've been. We all need more of you. And folks, at the end of the show, what I like to say is hopefully you've gotten some out of the show, whether you're a mom now or you're a mom to be, or something that you're doing that you find that maybe you want to do a little different if you get the results that we talk about on the show. And more importantly, what I like to say is sometimes when we know better, we do better.
Better.
My name is Cozy Stone. God allowing, I'll be back here next week. But wait a minute here. I need you to go on Amazon and purchase my Cozyisms, The Art of Paying Attention. There is more of me in here. My personality, my sense of humor, my seriousness, accompanied with some of the best artists that I've met so far. If you'd like to be on this show, please email me at cozyupandpayattention@gmail.com. We would love to tell your story and share you with the world. Good afternoon, pretty lady, and I will see you soon. And I'm very grateful that you blessed me with some of your time.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Talk to you soon.
All righty.
Bye-bye.